And welcome everyone to Voices of Service on Thursday, May 29th. Can't believe the end of the month's already here. This is Sue Peterson from the Michigan District, and I want to welcome you this evening to our program. Um, Three of our presenters tonight are actually traveling, so I'm actually in Atlanta, Georgia right now for a conference. Paul Palazzolo and Erica are actually attending the EC&C conference this weekend, so they'll be um, broadcasting from their areas, and then Jeff Wolff, who's from the Capital District, I understand is at home,
It's
correct?
rare, but I am.
He's
Yeah.
home. So tonight we're going to talk about the proposed amendments for the Kiwanis International Convention that will be held in Pittsburgh the 25th through the 28th of June, those give or take those days. And we did post in the Facebook post as well as you can find the proposed amendments on the website. So if you need those there, if we need to put the links in the chat, we can do that as well. And we'll also add them in later. So I'm going to let Paul and Erica introduce themselves to start out with, and then we'll get started. So, Erica, we'll let you go first.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Erica Gould. I am the governance guru for Kiwanis International. So I handle all things bylaws, policy, procedure, amendments. I am a third generation Kiwanian myself. My grandfather was in the Detroit number one club, so he was a Michigan Kiwanian. And I'm also a Kiwanis member as well. And I've been in this position for about a year now. A year ago, I inherited this position from Diana O'Brien, who has retired. But I come with a law background and a passion for bylaws and procedures. So happy to be here and thank you for inviting us to speak tonight, Sue.
Thank you. Paul?
Hey, thanks, Sue, and thanks, Erica and Jeff. And just wanted to say that I practically know everybody on the call, and I've just had the recent opportunity to serve our great organization as executive director since February of 24. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So tonight what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some of the basics about the amendments, and then we'll have everybody give everybody a chance to ask any questions about one, two, and then we actually have one of the proposers, or I should say Jeff is representing the team that's proposing from the Capital District for amendment number three, but we'll get there. So the amendments book, which is linked on the Pittsburgh website under Kiwanis.org convention, includes a letter from Paul, the parliamentary procedure to glance, and the standing rules, as well as the three amendments that will be brought before the House in June at the convention. And I think the biggest thing that I can stress is to make sure that your delegates are registered to attend the convention. If they haven't been registered, please make sure they do get registered and make sure that whether you give them a copy of the bylaws or someone else gives them a copy of bylaws or they show them where to find them, that they have those and have read them ahead of time. One of the biggest things we'd like to say is that it's best if they come prepared for any discussion that's at the House of Delegates so they know what the amendment is meant and what's the background behind it. So quick few things just to give you an idea, and this will be covered during the House of Delegates is there's a 15 minutes overall discussion for each amendment, a 2-minute time limit for each speaker at the microphone. So if there is anyone that you're aware of that would like to speak, remind them they have 2 minutes. That is timed at the front table, so they will shut the microphones off. 5 minutes for amendments to the amendments if those should be brought forward. The debate can be extended on any matter, and the debate on the amendment to the amendment does not count towards the total overall time for the main amendment. So those rules will be reviewed again by our president when he is at the microphone going through all the rules of the regulations, and there will be a parliamentarian on site. So there's all kinds of information there, but this information is also in the guide that everyone can print off, and we're providing those booklets as well at the International Convention, correct? Yes. Okay. Some standing rules that I think is important as well is that any motion from the floor is written in English, signed by the maker and the seconder, and presented to the executive director or the designee, whoever Paul designates at that time. There will be a sergeant at arms near the stage, and that's typically who they get presented for. Again, each delegate has a 2-minute time limit for their remarks. A delegate cannot speak a second time unless no one else wants to speak. There will be two microphones on each side of one microphone on each side of the audience, one for the pro, one for the con, one for and one against. And then it's just important that those individuals are recognized from the podium, stating their name and their club first before they make an amendment, so that we have all that information goes into our records. And then only priority motions, which are point of order or point of information, can interrupt the line of speakers. So that information will be followed through. And again, our president will be managing that and managing the House with using the rules of the House. So there are three amendments. The first one is language cleanup and district submission of resolutions. So I'm going to go to that one. I'll pop it through here just to show you. Or I should go back. Yeah, let's do this. So this first amendment has been proposed by the Kiwanis International Board. It's to clarify current language of the bylaws requiring districts to be in good standing to submit resolutions. So Article 17 of the Convention Procedure, Section 3, says that the board has proposed resolutions shall be submitted at any time, but no later than October 31st. Prior to the next scheduled Kiwanis convention by a district board or a House of Delegates of a district in good standing. So, in other words, the district has to be in good standing to make that presentation, and the date was no later than October 31st, which means that for those of you that wish to submit a change or propose resolutions, you don't have to wait until the next year. All that information needs to be in by October 31st in order for it to be considered by the House or by the board so they can prepare it for the House at that point. Erica or Paul, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think this is helping to clarify, because some people they think they can't submit in November or December, any other time. You can submit anytime that you want amendments. We always welcome them, but in order to be held at the next convention, it will have to be before 31st.
Right.
So this is just a standard language cleanup.
Standard language cleanup. Any questions from those of you in the audience? Hearing none, we'll go to
There's
number two.
one.
Go ahead.
What is in the current bylaws? What is the current deadline date right now?
So what is new is the bold and underlined. So in the current bylaws, it says by October 31st. And it says, that's in the current bylaws. And the word district in front of House of Delegates is in the bylaws. So
so it's always been October 31st.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Correct. You're welcome. I guess I should let our team in Indianapolis answer that question.
Yeah, no, that was perfect.
Okay. All right. Amendment number 2. This was also proposed by the Kiwanis International Board to allow regional boards to propose resolutions and amendments. And a regional board would be our friends in Asia and our friends in Europe, correct? Erica, I see your head shake, yes?
Yeah, ASPAC is in the process of incorporating now. So by passing this amendment, those two entities would be able to propose resolutions themselves.
So that's what's added by the board or House of Delegates of a region has been added. And as we know, I didn't pull anything up, but as we know, it would be added throughout the amendments, wherever it needs to be added throughout the entire bylaws or the amendments, so that the catch up is all it's all the housekeeping is there. Like in here, it would be added to Article 27. So all that information would be added in there. So throughout the entire bylaws, it would be caught up at that point. Should number 1 pass, number 2 pass, it would continue on. Any questions on number 2?
Can you go back to that first slide of the amendment 2?
I sure can.
Thank you.
And I can point out here, so for this amendment, if you go back one more slide, Sue, really quickly, Depending on whether amendment number 1 passes, if it does pass, this language will be changed. So it won't be the by October 31st. It will be what we have changed it to in Amendment 1. So we will be showing the amended version up on the screen, and it will have the amended wording in this amendment then. And if it doesn't pass, then we'll leave it how it is.
So the information flows forward. If Amendment 1 passes, that information would automatically go into Amendment 2, and
Yep.
then there would be the adjustments for the rest of it.
Yep.
Any questions? More questions on number 2? If anybody sees hands, I don't have all the pictures up, so if anybody sees hands, please let me know. Okay, so we'll move on to amendment number 3. And amendment number 3, the purpose is for the remote voting for Kiwanis International Business, submitted by the Capital District Board. The purpose is to provide for candidate nominations and initial review of proposed amendments and resolutions at the Kiwanis International Convention, with final voting to take place via secure remote voting. The effective date would be October 1 of 2025, with first implementation to be in conjunction with the 2026 International Convention. And we are happy to have with us this evening Jeffrey Wolff from the Capital District, who is a representative of the committee that has proposed this amendment. So Jeff, I'll let you take the floor.
Sure. Happy to address any questions from the audience on this amendment. This amendment should not be new to anyone who's been to a Kiwanis convention recently. In fact, if you were in Denver, this exact version of this amendment was proposed. It was also supported by the Kiwanis International Board last year in its same form. It received 61% of the vote, I believe, falling short of the 66% threshold, or technically 67. But Capital District continues to champion this cause because we feel this is important for our organization. We have, when we first brought this amendment, I'll just a brief bit of history here. I put this amendment, actually it was at the time, it was an administrative resolution. This was at the Kiwanis Convention in Chiba, Japan, 2014, as when this was first brought up, so 11 years ago now. And KI was, as a result of that administrative resolution, they were asked to conduct a study. So they appointed several Kiwanians and several Kiwanis International staff members, including the CTO and the CEO at the time, to conduct a study about online voting. And I'm happy to share those results. That's a report that was made public. But in there, they very clearly identified multiple vendors. And this, again, going back to 2014, 11 years ago, they identified multiple vendors that could perform the online voting service for our organization at 50% of the cost that we were spending on handheld remote voting devices. So in 2014, we spent roughly $38,000 a year for handheld voting devices at our annual convention. And the cost of the software at the time would have been about $16,000 to $18,000. Now, both of those numbers have definitely gone up in 2025. But they are still going to be a fraction of the cost that we spend today. So any argument that this is going to be more expensive for our organization is simply not founded in data. We also feel that a remote voting would allow our people who are not going to attend the international convention anyway, for any one of a number of reasons. And we know people do not attend international convention. We have 7,200 Kiwanis clubs worldwide. That means even if you set your delegates at large aside, you have a potential of almost 15,000 voting delegates from clubs. We get, on average, about 1,200 voting delegates at our international convention. That's about 8% of our organization. And a lot of those delegates that do attend are, in fact, at-large delegates, meaning they're not representing a club, but they are voting as a result of having an international office or a district office or a past office. So a very small portion of our organization makes decisions for the entire organization. If you allowed remote voting, which is a technology we know works, it's been tried and true. In fact, I just found out we met with the Kiwanis European governors earlier this week, and we're told that at the Kiwanis European conference just 2 weeks ago in Iceland, they used remote voting to conduct their election. And in fact, they used one of the vendors that Kiwanis had initially identified in 2014 as being able to do this function in all Kiwanis languages across the world at all times. So I don't want to belabor the point, but I'm happy to answer any questions from anyone on the call. Sue, you're muted.
Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing the amendment itself on the screen so that we can see people, so I can see hands and all that kind of stuff that are going on. But we'll make sure that those amendments are in the chat room for you to see that. So I'm going to stop that share. If I can get the computer to work here.
Eric, I see you have your hand
And
up.
Eric has his hand up. Eric?
I do, thank you. I'm just curious, and maybe someone from the Kiwanis board can answer this. In the past, the board voted to support this amendment. Now they voted they are not supporting this amendment, and I'm curious why.
Is there a current member on the board who would like to answer that question?
Or I can address that
Or
if
Paul?
if
Paul,
it's
go ahead.
possible, Sue.
Yeah, you may.
Well, I'd prefer to hear it from a board member,
th-
Paul.
I don't know if we have.
Jackie Susan.
Oh, Jackie Susan. Okay, go ahead, Jackie Sue. I also think Kathy Tutty's on.
Kathy, you want to arm wrestle for it, or should I just go ahead?
You go.
Okay. So there was lots of discussion at the board level about this, and one of the things that came up is how many times have we been in delegate session and there's been an amendment to the amendment? When there is an amendment to the amendment, how would the remote voting be handled, and how much time would be prolonged in order to make sure all of the language was visible to everyone voting? And when would we cut off the end of the voting in order to capture all of the votes without prolonging the issue? And what I mean by prolonging, I mean by House of Delegates typically goes what, 2, 3, 4 hours for that section. How much time would it be prolonged if we had to do the amendment from the amendment and so on, what I just said? So that was one of the main reasons why it was all of a sudden, or at least this year, not supported by the board.
Jackie, see if I may address that.
Yes.
The current amendment, which again is the same amendment as last year that the board supported, already addresses that scenario. In fact, the amendments to amendments, elections are handled entirely by remote voting in the amendment as written. Keep in mind, we drafted this with Diana O'Brien, who worked as a governance specialist before Erica, and with the KI board on Committee on Governance. So elections are handled entirely by ranked voting, preferential voting via the online system, but amendments are different. Amendments to amendments are handled as they are today. It's only the final version of any amendment that would go to remote voting. So in other words, the House of Delegates from an amendment standpoint acts very much as it does today. Only those in person would be able to speak on the floor and amend an amendment. When the amendments to the amendments are complete and the final version of that amendment has now been put to the floor, that final version of the amendment would be votable by anyone remotely. So that was very much addressed in the amendment already.
All right. How about the folks that are overseas, the time zone differences for whom could be voting on? How do you stipulate when those folks get to vote and when the deadline ends for them to do so?
So the amendment as written was designed to allow the KI board to decide the time period that would take place. It would not be real time. In other words, the candidates would be nominated at the House of Delegates as they are today. The amendments would be debated until they're into their final versions. And then online voting would begin for both those people in person and those voting around the world. And the KI board could set whatever threshold they wanted, 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, and then the results of the election and amendments would be announced to everyone. So it would permit people, no matter where they are, no matter what time zone they're in, the ability to vote remotely.
Paul, did you want to, before Jackie Sue started, you had a, did I lose Paul?
He's muted.
Sorry about
Paul?
that. I'm fine.
That's
Please
it.
go
That's
ahead.
okay. Okay, so we have a couple other questions in the chat that I will read. Many other organizations our size use remote voting. Have we reached out to them for procedures? And I'm gonna add who's using it.
Yes. So this going back to the report from 2014, staff reached out to a number of other organizations that use remote voting, and I'm quoting from their report. We received responses from 3 who have embraced full or partial online voting: Seratoma, Optimist, and Mensa. All 3 organizations were completely satisfied with their online voting experience. None saw a measurable decline in convention attendance attributable to online voting. And that's yet another reason that you're going to hear that we shouldn't adopt online voting, is because it will drop our convention attendance. The reality is we know that convention attendance has been dropping on its own for years. I mentioned that we roughly get about 1,200 delegates at our convention now. But if you go back to when we proposed this amendment in 2014, initially as a resolution, we were getting roughly 1,500 delegates a year. The high watermark was 2,100 at Las Vegas in 2010, but we were averaging much below that. But it averaged, if you go back 10 years at a time, it was roughly about 1,500 delegates a year. And now we're at 1,200 delegates a year. So doing absolutely nothing has dropped our convention attendance. Convention needs to be focused on the things that it's important. That's education, fellowship, social opportunities, networking. Honestly, KI's own survey of convention attendees in the past showed every single time, and I requested this data and got it from KI, that every single time they surveyed convention attendees, the thing they put at the lowest reason for attending the convention was the House of Delegates. It is not the reason people come to convention. They come to see their friends, to get educated, to get energized, to celebrate the year they had. They don't come to convention to vote.
Eric,
Can I add some? Sorry.
Yep. Who was that wanted to add something? I'm sorry.
It's hi, my name's Tim. I'm the governor-elect of the Capital District. I actually belong to one of those organizations that Jeffrey named. And I receive an email, a secured email with a link to my ballot to vote every year. The organization that I belong to, convention attendance, they actually outdraw Kiwanis. They have about 2,000 people annually, and it's basically been unchanged since they've implemented online voting. So I just wanted to add that from a personal perspective of as someone who has done online voting.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Erica? Did you have anything to say? I'm just trying to bounce back and forth between people.
No,
I
no.
think Jackie Sue's got her hand up.
Jackie Sue?
I just wanted to touch on what Jeffrey said previously. He said that if the amendment to the amendment or the KI board could set the time limit, he said, I can't remember your exact words, Jeffrey, I'm sorry. You said about 6 hours or so. By that time, we've already released the House of Delegates. And sometimes there's amendments to the amendments depending on who speaks at what microphone at what time. I just don't know if the logistics are going to be workable without losing chaos or losing interest or losing people out the back door because they're tired. You know, I just think the logistics are too problematic.
Yeah, to be clear, again, all debate on the amendment will have already taken place. No further debate could happen. So all you're doing at that point is voting the amendment as changed or as originally proposed, up or down. It's the same thing that we do in our House today. Once time has run out an amendment, very much like it did last year for this amendment, no further debate is permitted. It goes to a vote of the House. So that's exactly what would happen. It would just be open to all people to vote from all clubs. And it doesn't matter how long the time frame is. You could synchronize it if you wanted everyone to vote at the same time. They could, but you'd be asking Kiwanians in other parts of the world to be voting in the middle of their night. Whereas you could just give them a time period to vote and announce the results the next morning, still at the convention, as a matter of fact. There's nothing in our bylaws that says the House of Delegates has to happen on Saturday.
Eric, do you have anything that you want to add to this that no one else has already said?
Well, thank you. And thank you for the input and for the responses. I'm just curious, Do you know what these other organizations charge just for the ability to vote? And right now we charge $3.95 for a convention registration, $2.95 for the house only, I believe, or $1.95. I'm not sure.
$1.99. Yeah.
Okay, $1.95. Thank you. But like these other organizations, like Governor Gillette mentioned, what do they charge just for voting? Do you know? Or does Kiwanis have an idea what they're planning on?
I could speak to my organization. It's a part of our member dues. There's no charge.
Well, thanks,
And,
Tim.
and Eric, I'll be honest with you. I think when we first proposed this, we had every intention of saying that remote voters should be allowed to vote without paying because they're not costing the organization anything. But we also capitulated that the Kiwanis board is within their purview to set a fee for remote voters. We do it today, right? We currently live stream our House of Delegates, whether everyone knows that or not. We live stream our business session online for anyone to see publicly, no cost. And last year in Denver, we charged $99 if you wanted to attend in person just the business session. This year, it's $199 in Pittsburgh. There is no reason why we couldn't charge the exact same amount to remote voters to vote online. That is money that the organization would collect to help against the deficit of the International Convention, which we have each year. And it
Per
is money
delegate
that
or
would not have gotten otherwise.
Jeff, are you talking per delegate or per club?
No, I'm talking per delegate, but it's up. But that's not stated, to be clear, that's not stated in our amendment.
That's not part of the
That
amendment.
is up for the KI board to decide each year, just like they set the prices
Thank you.
down.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Jackie.
Paul?
Thank you, Sue.
Jackie's got her hand up, and if I could then present the board's position then.
Okay, Jackie Sue?
Or maybe I should just let Paul go.
All
No,
right.
no, please, go ahead, Jackie Sue.
Okay, one last point that I want to make. And Jeffrey, I very much appreciate the dialogue. Let's say Count Neva has oh my gosh, they have a VP candidate on the docket this Pittsburgh. And PNW has one too, I hear. You've got 270 some PNW clubs, but yet hypothetically you may have 700 Count Neva clubs. If every club sends or has remote voting, then you have got an unequal balance of voting power based on the size of your district.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jack Sue, but we already have an inequality. The inequality is set by the fact that you have to spend thousands of dollars to go to convention.
But don't you think it would get worse by making it easier for people to vote? I would disagree with that.
That's fair, but I will say that we're also very much an organization that keeps our convention most of the time in the United States. And there are currently a lot of travel restrictions to get in and out of the United States. And if no one's going to mention that, I'm going to, because we are now cutting off our organization from Europe, Asia Pacific, from participating in the elections and the business of our organization. And this is very much an equity issue, and I'm saying without saying it's an equity issue, it is.
Well, again, thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
Paul.
Cool. There's one more comment. I think that there was a question that from Saddleback.
Oh, I'll get to do they have a hand up? I'll get to the questions in the chat after you're finished, because there's 5 or 6 questions I haven't reached yet. Okay,
cool. I've been asked to present the board's opposing opinion on the amendment, and all of you that know me know I'm a bit of a nerd, and one of my favorite Shakespeare plays is The Merchant of Venice, and in The Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare popularized the phrase "all that glitters is not gold." And the context of the phrase in the play is the character Portia is left with the fortune when her father dies, and concerned that his daughter would be vulnerable to fortune hunters, the father says in his will that all suitors need to be tested. So they have to correctly pick one of 3 boxes, one of which has Portia's picture in it. One box has gold around it, one box has silver around it, and one box has lead. So the suitors line up. The first is a prince who picks the gold box, but there are bones inside, not Portia's picture, so he loses. And at that point where the prince picks the gold box, it's Portia that tells him all that glitters is not gold. And I think that the phrase is applicable to the amendment. All that glitters is not gold. And I can tell you that at this stage of our organization's existence, we have to, from a financial standpoint, from a time and resources standpoint, and from a first things first standpoint, determine what's nice to have that's going to help clubs be the best that they can be, or is this a need to have? So what's currently going on in Kiwanis International that has a need to have that helps our clubs to be the best that they can be? A need to have that we're working on right now is Kiwanis Engage. And that's a new technology platform that needs focus, a new technology program that's throughout this next couple of years is going to need focus on ironing out any bugs that exists or wrinkles, and making sure that Kiwanis Engage is got our complete attention at 3636 and in volunteer leadership to be the best that it can be. A need to have is build, nurture, retain. The leadership challenge that we have in our clubs is immense. We are looking for lieutenant governors in a lot of places. A lot of Kiwanis clubs have 6 members, 10 members, 12 members that we need to help them get back to charter strength. And so we're focusing on and putting a lot of attention and time and resources on build, nurture, retain. That's a need to have. The convention itself, we are making sure that the convention has value for individuals to want to attend. As Jeff mentioned earlier, the convention must be an educational forum. That's kind of redundant, but an educational best of show to have members want to come to the convention to get information to take back to their clubs to be the best that it can be. And we've done some good things so far, even this year, with having the catalog out earlier with all of the forum offerings that are available. I think, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the earliest that this catalog of forum opportunities has been out and available. And we need to keep doing that. We need to keep focusing on the convention. A need to have is focusing on our responsibilities of sponsorship. We have to make sure that Kiwanis clubs are fulfilling those responsibilities. And a need to have, as we all heard from the amendment to the dues last year, that the members want us to focus on our fiscal responsibility. And we've been doing that with fewer staff members. We're down by 5 with a balanced budget and building back our reserves. All that glitters is not gold. And what we need to have is something that is going to focus on our clubs and not keep resources diverted to things that are nice to haves. And I think it's important to note that if I had a restaurant, let's say I had a pizza restaurant, and 2 of my 4 pizza ovens didn't work. I need to get those done so I can be the most effective pizza restaurant available to customers. But I also want this nice Mercedes delivery van. Now I could use my resources and time to pay for that nice Mercedes delivery van and not fix my pizza ovens, but I really want that van, but I really need to focus on my pizza ovens. And our pizza ovens in this case is our clubs and members and helping them be the best that they can be. I need to talk about the second dot point that's on our proposal for the international boards not supporting this. It says this proposal could cause a decrease in the forward momentum of attendance for the annual Kiwanis International Convention. A decline in convention attendance would diminish a key value of Kiwanis membership, fellowship, which fosters personal connection and the exchange of new ideas. Here's hot off the press information. We are at 200 registrants ahead of last year. Our Kiwanis International Conventions are experiencing an increase in attendance. Minneapolis had a number, Denver had a higher number, and Pittsburgh has got 200 more now than Denver. And we are growing. We, I think, are moving in the positive direction. An opportunity to vote remotely, some believe would dismantle that momentum to want to attend the convention. And I think we need to keep that in mind. When it comes to looking at amendments, as we say in the dot points, remote voting could inhibit the ability of delegates to clearly amend proposed amendments. On arduous proposals, rough deciding proposals, this lack of clarity may limit compromise and or adjustments that are necessary to accommodate successful implementation of an important issue. If debate points are not being clearly made in a debating session to help an amendment move through to passage, it could be problematic. And sporadic outages or complications in internet service around the world during specific times cannot be controlled. We've got to keep that in mind. Now, there's a very alluring vibe in the only the wealthy can vote argument. And it's true that if the opportunity is offered every year to vote on issues and officers sitting in your kitchen while you're in your pajamas, perhaps without hearing or listening to the presentations or having interacted in person with the candidates, 9 out of 10 times, I'll choose voting in my kitchen in my pajamas. We need to invest in our club leaders to come to convention so that it's not just only a wealthy can go. And this is what used to be a part of the investment of clubs. They would support delegates to come to the international convention. And that still should be. It shouldn't be a full ride, but it should be a portion of the expenses to help delegates attend the convention. That has been what has made involvement in the organization, not from a voting perspective, but from a taking back ideas to the club. Those clubs that invest in their incoming club leaders to go to the convention are the ones that experience the most success in their impact in their backyard and what they're able to accomplish in their communities. The concept that everybody's already doing it, that there's organizations already doing it. When that was in the book about Optimist, they had in 2015 they had 71,507 members. Today, Optimist has 46,000 members. They've experienced a drop in membership. In terms of convention attendance, in 2013 and 14, Optimist had 1,077 members at their convention. In 23-24, Optimist had 634 members at their convention. Those are facts. In 2013-14, 1,077 members. In 23-24, 634 members. And it dropped to 869 before the pandemic. It's also important to note that Optimist, with their remote voting, their percentage of members outside of North America, for Optimist International, their percentage of members outside of North America, 2.8%. Optimist International's percentage of members outside of North America is 2.8%. So the hurdles of time zones, the hurdles of international, inclusion into this is less arduous for Optimists. They're only 2.8%. Sertoma, let's look at Sertoma. In 2015, Sertoma had 10,769 members. Their percentage of members outside of North America, 0%. Sertoma has 0% members outside of North America. And in 2014, they had 180 members at their international convention and at their on-site, that is, on-site. And in last year, at their most recent convention, 71 individuals on site at their international convention. That's the Sertoma indication of their online voting and membership convention attendance experience and their membership experience overall. So I believe that we need to pause and look at this and make sure that we're not delving into something that is glittery but it seems cool and hip and that it has all the potential in the world. But in reality, will it be a distraction, as it said in the first dot point, from really directing our resources to all of those other things that I listed, from Kiwanis Engage to Build, Nurture, Retain, to making the conventions the most spectacular, best show in town that it needs to be. And indeed, if we are truly doomed to continue declining in our own membership in Kiwanis and possibly start to see declines in convention attendance, remote voting only speeds this up. It doesn't give us the chance to turn things around by putting full priority where it belongs, on membership and convention attendance. And maybe when we have 200,000 members, remote voting might be an option. I just think we need to keep that in mind. And if you're familiar with the Raiders of the Lost Ark movies, as I am, there's one with the medieval knight guarding the Holy Grail, and the villain sees the options of what the Holy Grails could be. And so the villain thinks that obviously the gold one is going to be the one that's going to give him eternal life if he drinks from it. And so he picks the gold one and he drinks from it, and it wasn't the right Holy Grail. It wasn't the right Grail at all. And his body melts away. And the knight says, he chose poorly. Let's not do that.
Thank you, Paul. Tim, I'll give you a second if you got anything new to add. Otherwise, I want to get to the questions in the chat.
Well, I think there's a lot to unpackage with what Paul had mentioned. There's no correlation between Optimus decline and other organizations decline in remote voting. I don't think that's an argument that can be made, especially in our own organization. We've had a decline in membership. We all know about that. As an incoming governor, I'm asked to build new Kiwanis clubs, right? And when I build these clubs, they're brand new. They have little funding. They don't have a big piggy bank. So the fact that they can't pull together funds to support themselves to come to convention to have a voice. So we're telling these clubs, these brand new clubs, hey, if you don't show up to a large convention and spend all this money, then you don't have a voice in the international business of the organization. And the next point I'm going to make is we've all heard about the new Kiwanis Voices program. Sue, I think you're doing a presentation in a couple of weeks on it. We're trying to build clubs of 18 to 26-year-olds. They don't have the money to show up to these events, to these conventions. So we're going to build these clubs in mass as a district. They're asking for 3 of these clubs per district. And we're going to tell those clubs also, hey, if you don't spend thousands of dollars to come to convention, you're not going to have a voice in the international business. And I follow all the quotes. They're awesome. I appreciate it. I just don't connect with the logic there. And this is an equity issue. We've talked about this. This is about giving the voice to as many clubs as possible to have a say in the business of our organization. And I'll just stop with that. Thank you.
Thank you. I've had a couple of questions I want to throw out here. And I think we may be able to just go through these. Wouldn't they just need to publicize timing ahead of time to coincide with timing limits?
If they wanted to do real time, yes.
If they wanted to real time, yes.
They
I'm
don't have to.
assuming KI would simply charge an online fee for attendance,
Yes.
which just may increase attendance. What do our Rotary Lions and our Big Brothers do? Paul?
Lions similarly elects its officers at their Lions International Convention. Clubs have the opportunity to vote, and they are not allowed to remote vote. Lions, as was testified last year on the House floor, they are not allowed to vote remotely at their Lions International Convention. And they elect officers and handle issues in the same way that Kiwanis does. And Erica, we've scoured their bylaws, correct? Okay.
I know she bounced in and out. I don't know if she's back with us or not.
Yes, I was
Okay.
nodding my head. Yeah.
Okay.
And so Rotary's election process is for lack of a better term, a conclavian issue.
It's representative.
They elect a person from each district to go to a legislative session every 3 years.
Yep.
And you are not allowed to vote remotely at that legislative session. You have to be in person in Chicago to vote at that legislative session.
But those
And
people
then-
aren't funded, Paul. They're funded to attend that triannual meeting, to be clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the presidents are elected by past Rotary directors. 17 Rotary directors go into a darkened room, and then white smoke goes up, and they find who their Rotary International president is going to be 2 to 3 years in advance. No club participates in the direct election of the Rotary International president, and there's no remote voting for those quote unquote electors that go to the conclave where a Rotary International president is selected. And Erica, we've scoured the Rotary bylaws for that analysis, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so I have a
But
question.
let me say this, one more thing. If Lions who elects in a similar manner, if Lions with 1.4 million members, 1.4 million members, with a host of countries, much more than Kiwanis is represented in, with a host of countries outside of their North American headquarters base, saw the need for this. They have the need because of their clubs that are remote, far and wide, and they have the resources because they have 1.4 million members. If Lions saw the value of this, they would have done it 10 years ago.
And to be clear, to that point, when we had twice the membership we have now, most Kiwanis clubs paid for their delegates to go to international convention, which does not happen anymore. So with more clubs and more members comes more financial resources, absolutely, and more ability to send remote delegates on site. That doesn't exist anymore. Most Kiwanis clubs do not pay for anyone to go on their behalf to convention. I think we're all clear on that.
Many do not, many do.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, let me just go through these because we're getting short on time and I don't want to cut us off, but I'm very respectful of his time. Here's why I'm going to get to the questions part. If the amendment passes, would the House of Delegates be hybrid with the option of in-person and remote votes or only remote?
No, we're not. Legal counsel at Kiwanis indicated that we are not permitted to hybrid vote. So if it passed, all future House of Delegates would function with in-person amendments to the amendments, but all voting takes place whether you're sitting on the floor of the House or wherever you are in the world. You would be voting with a remote platform.
Right. So remote platform for everybody at
For
that
everyone,
point.
correct.
Okay. So as I mentioned, I wanna this recording will give us probably till the end of the weekend to get this recording out. We'll make sure we make the announcement again on Facebook, and I will also send everybody that's on our roster right now to attend Voices of Service. We will make sure that that gets out. You will get that email as well once that happens. As a reminder, next week, our friend Chris Martz will be on with the Build, Nurture, Retain program. And the week after that, we welcome our Kiwanis International trustee candidates on the 12th. And on the 19th, we've invited President-elect Michael Mulhall and Vice President Hope Marks were scheduled to be on that program that evening with us. And they are going to talk about the Kiwanis Voices program and discuss that at that point. And then, of course, we'll be at International Convention the week after, so we'll take a couple weeks off because I'll be at Key Club Convention as well. So I want to thank everybody for the great discussion tonight. We appreciate everything that you have brought to the table. I think these are the types of discussions we need to have as an organization, and it's nice to have this ahead of time as well. And there will be plenty of opportunity, I'm sure, at the convention in Pittsburgh that we can do it over maybe at a drink, adult beverage at the ball game, or will that be over by that time? So thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We will see you next week with Chris and Build, Nurture, Retain. Thanks for joining us.